Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this tutorial, we are gonna learn how to debug our Instagram clone application. So go ahead and run the Instagram clone application. And here you can see that we have free edit texts here, free text fields. And here we are supposed to enter values. So what happens if I don't enter any values here and then click on sign up? So if I click on sign up, here it is showing us an error, and here you can see that its error is illegal argument exception, username cannot be missing or blank. So let's go ahead and enter a value for the username. For example, Sean. So let's go ahead and click on sign up. Now here it says that the password cannot be missing or blank. So let's go ahead and also enter a value for the password, 12345, and click on sign up. So now it's gonna go ahead and sign up the user by just the username and the password. And now it says Sean is signed up. But what about the email, right? We need that the user to enter an email. So that is a bug. So now in order to solve this bug, let's go to our sign up class, and inside this onClick method where we are signing up the user, we can create an if-else statement. So here after this case statement, I'm gonna say if edt email dot get text dot toString dot equals. So this method equals is called on a string object that is going to compare two or some string values together in order to see that whether their contents match together or not. So for example, I'm gonna put two quotes and say two quotes means empty value. So here I am simply saying that if the value of the edt email is empty, or, so here I'm gonna use the or operator or logical operator, and then I'm gonna say edt username dot get text dot toString dot equals to an empty string value. So here I'm saying that if the value of this text field username is empty, and then let's put another or statement here, or logical operator actually, and then let's say edt password dot get text dot toString dot equals to an empty string value. Then in that case, if this is the case, let's go ahead and open and close our if statement by using these curly braces. So here let me create some new lines. So if this is the case, we don't want to sign up the user. So in that case, we simply go ahead and show a fancy toast message. So let me just copy and paste this fancy toast message here. Empty values are not allowed. So let's say email, comma, username, comma, password is required. So now let's change the type of this fancy toast message to info, and then the length is short and the show method is called. So if this is the case, we don't want to sign up the user. So let's put an else statement here after the ending curly brace of this if statement. And then let's put our parse codes inside this else statement. So let's go ahead and put the ending curly brace here after this ending curly brace and this parenthesis of this done method, of this third argument of the sign in background method. So here we simply created this if statement, and then if this is the case, then it's not gonna sign up the user because there is an else statement. But if this condition evaluates to false, it's gonna go ahead and execute this else statement and sign up the user. So let's go ahead and run our application and let's see what happens. So now let's go ahead and let's just enter a username and a password. So because before we could sign up a user by just entering a username and password. So let's say the username is someone and the password is 123. So now if I go ahead and click on sign up, it's showing me this fancy toast message that says email, username, password is required. Okay. And now if we enter an email, for example, someone@example.com, and if I click on sign up, now it's going to go ahead and sign up the user. Someone is signed up. So that is the case. That is the bug fix that we implemented here. So the next important point that I want to talk about here is that, so for example, the user enters the password, and instead of tapping on the sign up, the user enters or taps on the return key, on this enter key that we have here. So if that is the case, we just want to go ahead and sign up the user. So let's go ahead and implement this feature here. So for this specific task, we have a listener. So in order to implement this feature, we need to go to the onCreate method. And here you can see that we have the EDT password, right? So here, after that I declare the EDT password, I'm going to say EDT password dot set on key listener. And then I'm going to say new view dot on key listener. So next it's going to go ahead and implement or create an anonymous inner class that implements this view.onKey listener. And then that anonymous inner class is going to implement or override this onKey method. And this onKey method has 3 parameters. The first parameter is of type view and its name is v. So let's change this name to view. And the second parameter is of type integer and its name is keycode. So this method, maybe on your computer, its name might be different. For example, its name might be I instead of keycode, but you can change it to keycode. And the third parameter is the key event. So let's go inside this onKey method and let's say if the keycode is equal to key event dot keycode enter. So just type in here keycode enter. And so here I'm simply saying that if the key that is pressed is the enter key, keycode enter, and we want to make sure that there is an action down. We want to make sure that the user has actually pressed on the enter key. So in that case, event, so this parameter name might be in your computer, in your Android Studio, its name might be key event. So event dot get action is equal to, and then I'm going to refer to this key event here, this key event class dot action down. Here I am making sure that the user has actually pressed on the enter key and there was an action down on that enter key. We want to make sure that the user has pressed on that enter key. So next, let's go ahead and open and close this if statement by using these curly braces. So if this is the case, then we are sure that the user has pressed on the enter key. So I'm gonna call the onClick method, and then as a view parameter, we just pass the view that we get from the onKey here. So we don't pass the view itself, we pass the btn sign up. So remember, the button class is a subclass of view. So there is an is/are relationship between button and view. Button is a view. So that's why I can pass btn sign up as an argument to this onClick method here. And here I'm simply saying that just execute this onClick method, and where the view that is tapped is the btn sign up. Okay, so the reason that I called the set onClick listener method on this EDT password is that I want when the user just enters some values here as a password, so the next thing is to just click on sign up, right? So in that case, I want the user to just press on enter key and then the sign up process starts. So now let's go ahead and run our application. So here, let's go ahead and enter an email. So for example, let's say x@example.com, and the username is going to be Jackie, and the password is going to be 123. So here, instead of pressing on the sign up button, I'm gonna click on the enter key. So now the sign up process starts and it's gonna sign up the user. or I can also, because this is emulator, I can also press on the enter key on my keyboard. So now here the same process happens, but because there is already a user here in the parse server, it's not gonna sign up this user anymore. Here you can see the message. So that's it. And the next feature that I want to add to this application is that, for example, here you can see the keyboard, right? But I want the user, so the user taps on an empty area here. You can see I want, when that happens, this keyboard to go away. I don't want to see the keyboard when the user taps on an empty area here. So let's go ahead and implement this feature. But first, let's go into our activity underline signup.xml file, and let's specify an onClick method for the root layout, so for this constraint layout. Let's select the constraint layout and let's search for onClick attribute, and then let's say root layout tabbed. So let's copy this method and let's go to the signup class, and then here at the bottom let's implement this method. So before the ending curly brace of the signup class, I'm gonna say public void, excuse me, I need to just type in here void, and then the name of the method, a pair of parentheses, and then we need to also specify the parameter which is of type view. So view, and then we need to go ahead and open and close this method. Next, we just need to simply say input method manager. So just type in here input method manager. So here you can see that the autocomplete feature is not helping us to import this class to our file. So in that case, we just need to click on our class, on our key name, and then hold down the Alt key and then press on enter key on your keyboard. So then it's gonna just give us an option to import this class to our file. So here you can see that I have a typo. Let me first solve this typo, input method manager, and then Alt, enter. So now the input method manager is imported to our file here. So here you can see the import statement. So now let's go back here, and then let's give this a name, input method manager, assignment operator, and just type in here get system service input method service, semicolon. But here we need to cast the service that we are getting here as an input method manager. So let's put a pair of parentheses here before the get system service, and let's say input method manager. Now that we have this input method manager, we can go ahead and say input method manager dot. You can see that there are lots of methods here that we can call. If you want to, you can go ahead and take a look at the documentation of the input method manager. But the method that we are going to use is the hide soft input from window. And then we need to pass some arguments to this method. The first argument is going to be an iBinder actually. So I'm going to say get current focus dot, and then just pass the get window token, comma, the next argument is going to be flag. So for the flag, just pass the value 0. So by just writing these two lines of code, we can simply disappear the keyboard, hide the keyboard when the user taps on an empty area on the layout, for example, the root layout. So let's go to the activity signup.xml file and make sure that this method is specified for the onClick attribute of the constraint layout. So it is correct. Now let's go and run our app and let's see what happens. There is still a bug inside our application. We need to debug, but first we want to test this feature and see whether it works or not. Remember, trial and error is an inevitable part of your programming journey. Always make sure that you use trial and error. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes you don't know whether this feature is going to work or not. So trial and error is your best friend in order to see how you can solve a specific problem. And you don't have to always be sure. Remember, always use trial and error. So here I'm gonna enter inside an edit text, and then I want the keyboard to go away. I'm gonna click on an empty area, so the keyword goes away. I'm gonna click on this username edit text, empty area, okay, and here we can see that it works fine. So what is the bug? So here we can see that there is no keyboard here, right? If I go ahead and click on an empty area, our application is crashed. So here, the reason that our application is crashed is that there is no keyboard here, and it tries to hide a keyboard that is not there. So that's why the app crashes. So it says Instagram clone keeps stopping, close app. So in order to solve this problem, again, I'm going to use that simple trick that I showed you in the previous tutorials. So here, I'm gonna simply use a try-catch statements. I'm gonna say try, and I'm gonna put these 2 lines of code inside a try block, and then if anything goes wrong, I'm gonna use catch. I'm gonna catch the exception. I'm not gonna allow the application to crash. So the exception class is the super class of all exceptions in Java. So whatever goes wrong can be put inside this parameter, this variable, which is of type exception. And then I can say e.print stack trace. So it's just gonna output some values to the logs. So here, by just putting this try block, we prevent the app to crash. Let's go ahead and run our app, and let's see what happens. Now, let's go ahead and click on an empty area. So here you can see that nothing happens and our application is not crashed because we are catching the exception. So hopefully that makes sense. And now we have another activity, the login activity. So what about this one? For example, the user enters an email and then clicks on an empty area. I want the keyboard to go away. Or for example, the user enters some values here for the password, and then I want the user to be able to log into the application after clicking on the enter key on the keyboard. So here you can see that this feature is not implemented here. And then what about when the user doesn't enter an email and then click on the login here? So in that case, it's just gonna show the user a message. So for example, there is no email here, and I'm gonna click on login. So here you can see that nothing happens. So we need to also show a toast message to the user that the user must enter a value for the email and a value for the password so that he or she can log into the application. So go ahead and implement these features inside the login activity. You already know what to do. This is your challenge. Go ahead and give this challenge a go, and good luck. So in the next tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and implement the tab layout when the user signs up or log into the application. So here the user can enter some values for the profile, the user can see other users, and also the user can share a picture with a description. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.